Alrighty, let's talk about some basic tips pre-interview. One of the biggest compliments that I get from any candidate that speaks to me is when they say, wow, Jordana, you sound like you work for the company. That's how detailed my pitch about the client, the role, the culture, the comp, the hiring manager, and the company is. And why is this so detailed? Well, it's because I've worked in those environments before. So I know exactly what they're looking for. And number two, all I do is sales. Sales is my life. This is my specialty. It's the only language that I speak. So there is a value in a company that's coming to me as a recruiter and saying, Jordana, we want to work with you and not just some other generalist recruiter. And there's a value to the candidate, you coming to me and getting the insider information prior to your interview. This means I obviously am going to give you all of the tips, the tricks, and the guides, everything that the client has given to me in terms of detailed notes, because I want to bring you the best information possible to get you the job. Now, of course, there's certain things that I might not be able to tell you because the client, of course, is paying me and they want those things to be kept confidential, and I will not break that confidence. But for the most part, I want you to get this job and am willing to share the information that I've ascertained because I also want to get paid. And as a recruiter, I want to make sure that everybody's happy. The client's happy, you're happy, there's a great fit, and that you stay in this job and that you grow and progress in your career, because if you move into a manager role, you'll come back and use me as well. So here are a few tips that I can share with you. Number one, ask for the timeline. How are you supposed to know how much time and energy is going to be invested if you don't ask this up front? If you're employed and passively looking, you're going to have to take time off work or use a lot of excuses to be part of the interview process. I've had candidates ask this question up front and been able to consolidate the interview process with the help of the recruiter from 7-8 interviews to 3-4. Hiring managers also want to expedite the hiring process because it costs them money to have an open role, so they might not mind doing this. More tips. Knowing who you're meeting with and researching the hell out of them. Research the hell out of the company. Have a copy of the job description and know the competition. Ascertain the company's value prop and their potential customer base. Interview the interviewer. Were you promoted here? How long did it take? Who was the last person you promoted? If I were a customer, what would I love about doing business with this company? What do customers complain about if they do? What percentage of the team made target? How do you and what do you find to be the most important and most challenging part of working at this company? What do you expect of me in 30 days? Another tip, you need to know if the old person has left or if you are going to be replacing someone who is currently in a job. This is what happens behind the scenes. Is it a newly created role? Did someone leave? Whenever possible, you want to find out why the position is open, because there's a big difference in the way that you are going to interview. If you know that someone was fired, if it's a newly created position, or if the person was in the position and well liked and decided to move on. So you need to get this information if at all possible. In the first instance, if someone was fired, that likely means you're coming into a cleanup situation. It means the role could have been open for a while, the customers could be frustrated, some of the team is frustrated, there could be revenue attrition, and so you're going to tailor your pitch to the interviewer differently than you would in the second situation, which is a newly created role. Then you've got some flexibility here because the company has a concept of what they want. But the challenge here is what the company thinks they need in a newly created role is probably going to be way bigger than what you're going to be able to do. Let me give you an example. Someone came to me and was looking to hire a BDR. Arguably, a BDR's responsibility is for lead gen, research, prospecting, campaign management, cold calling, and potentially doing discovery and research calls. But they're not responsible for closing. Well, this client ended up talking about a channel sales and partnerships person and bringing the individual into some deals and bringing them on site for implementation. Well, that's not a BDR role, and this was a newly created role. So no, that's not going to be the person I'm looking for. So it is your recruiter's responsibility, if you have one, and your responsibility, if you don't, to make sure that the interviewer is aware of what you're capable of bringing to the table and why that's of value. In the third situation, which is someone who was well liked in the company and decided to move on, they will likely have left some sort of guide for you coming into the role. They could be crappy notes, but they've left notes. So know that they might have also left the territory in pretty good shape. The clients were happy with that person, so the person moving on didn't want to screw them over or screw the company over. The leader potentially was happy with that person as well. The problem there is that you are always going to be compared against that person who was number one. The second problem is that the role could have been open for a while. So you're going to have to potentially go in and do some cleanup in that situation. And you're going to have to get to know the client very, very quickly. The other challenge there is that you're going to have to get to know your teammates and the clients and your boss in a way that they're not going to keep looking back at old Bill who used to be in that role thinking he was a better candidate. No offense to anyone taking this named Bill. Think about these things pre-interview. What you need to get from your third-party recruiter, if you're using one, before the interview. What are those items that are going to help you to be successful? Well, number one, an interview guide. Our agency has one. We're going to share it with you. Number two, examples of behavioral questions. Our agency has that. We're going to share it with you. Number three, all of the information possible about the company, the revenue, the shareholders, LinkedIn profiles. Get all of that information from your recruiter ahead of time. Don't have one? It's on you to get it. I'll see you in the next one.